I buried my son 3 days ago. At least that's what everyone believes. 50 people stood around that grave. Friends, teachers, family. My ex-wife was crying so hard she could barely stand. And I just stood there, watching them bury a lie. This story is told from a father's point of view. The casket weighed nothing when I carried it, because it was empty. And the worst part wasn't the lie. It was that it was my idea. And before this story ends, you'll understand why a father would do something unforgivable to save his child. My name is Thorne Calloway. I'm 42 years old. And the truth is, my son didn't die. I killed him. Not with a weapon, not with my hands, but with a decision that destroyed the life he knew so he might have a chance to live. Because sometimes the world mistakes silence for weakness. Sometimes it mistakes patience for surrender. But a father can watch his child walk toward the grave only so many times before something inside him stops being gentle. And when that moment comes, the man you were disappears. What replaces him is not kind. What replaces him is not reasonable. But what replaces him might be the only thing standing between your child and the dirt. The phone rang at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. I know the exact time because I'd been staring at the ceiling for 3 hours, watching shadows from the street lamp outside crawl across the plaster like spiders. Sleep had become a stranger to me over the past 6 months, ever since Kai, my 17-year-old son, started coming home with eyes like broken glass and lies that tasted like copper on his tongue. "Mr. Calloway?" The voice was young, female, shaking. "This is Nurse Patel from Mercy General. Your son was brought in 20 minutes ago. Overdose. You need to come now." The drive took 11 minutes, should have taken 20, but red lights mean nothing when your child is dying. The hospital smelled like bleach, trying to hide death. My shoes squeaked against linoleum as I rammed through corridors that all looked the same. White walls, fluorescent lights humming their monotonous song. That particular silence that exists only in places where people come to either heal or disappear. Kai was in room 347. He looked small in that bed. My son, 6'2", broad-shouldered from the years he'd played lacrosse before everything went wrong, looked like a child again. Tubes snaked from his arms. A machine beeped his heartbeat, steady but slow, like a clock winding down. "Fentanyl-laced heroin," the doctor said. She was maybe 30, with tired eyes that had seen this scene too many times. "He's lucky. The friend who called 911 saved his life. Another 5 minutes?" She didn't finish. Didn't need to. Iris arrived 40 minutes later, her hair uncombed, mascara from yesterday smudged under her eyes. We'd been divorced for 3 years, but I still recognized the particular way her hands trembled when she was terrified. "How did this happen?" she whispered, staring at Kai's pale face. "How did we not see this?" I wanted to tell her I saw it. I saw it in the way he'd stopped looking me in the eye, in the way his laughter had become hollow, like wind through an abandoned house, in the way he'd started wearing long sleeves even in summer, hiding the track marks I'd glimpsed once when he'd reached for a glass of water at dinner. But I'd said nothing. I'd convinced myself that silence was patience, that giving him space was respect, that love meant not pushing too hard. I'd been wrong. "We're going to fix this," I told her. "I'm going to fix this." She looked at me then, and I saw something in her expression I hadn't seen in years. Hope mixed with doubt, like sunlight through dirty glass. "You can't fix everything, Thorne. You never could." Kai woke up 6 hours later. His first words were, "I'm sorry." His second words were, "I'm fine now. It was a mistake. It won't happen again." I'd heard those words before, too, 3 times in 6 months. 3 overdoses, each one closer to the edge than the last. The pattern was always the same. The overdose, the hospital, the tears, the promises. Then 2 weeks of sobriety, maybe 3 if we were lucky. Then the slow slide back, the missed curfews, the empty eyes, the lies that came easier each time. "We need to talk about rehab," I said. Kai's jaw tightened. "I don't need rehab. I just need to be more careful." "More careful?" Iris's voice cracked. "Kai, you almost died." "But I didn't." He looked away, toward the window where morning light was starting to bleed through the blinds. "I'm not like those people in rehab. I can handle this." That's what addiction does. It convinces you that you're different, that you're stronger, that you're in control, even as it's dragging you under like a riptide. We tried anyway. Found a facility 2 hours north called Riverside Recovery, with good reviews and a 30-day program. Cost more than my truck was worth, but I would have sold everything I owned if it meant getting my son back. Kai lasted 9 days. On day 10, he walked out during a group session, hitchhiked to the nearest town, and disappeared for 3 days. When he finally came home, he looked like he'd aged 10 years. His skin had a gray tinge, like old newspaper. His hands shook so badly he couldn't hold a fork. "I can't do it," he said. "I can't sit in those circles and talk about my feelings and pretend that talking fixes anything. You don't understand what it's like." "Then help me understand," I said. But he just shook his head and went to his room, and I heard the lock click, a sound that had become as familiar as my own heartbeat. I started following him. I told myself I wasn't crossing a line. I was just trying to understand how far he had already fallen. Not every day, just enough to piece together the map of his addiction. The gas station on Mercer Street, where he met his dealer, a guy named Vex who drove a black Camaro with tinted windows and wore gold chains that caught the light like warning signals. The abandoned warehouse on the east side where kids he went to use, huddled in corners like refugees from their own lives. The pawn shop where Kai sold his grandmother's ring, the one he'd given him before she died, the one he'd sworn he'd keep forever. I watched from a distance, my heart breaking a little more each time. One night, I followed Vex. He lived in a duplex in a neighborhood where lawns died from neglect and chain-link fences sagged like tired shoulders. I sat in my truck across the street for 2 hours, watching shadows move behind curtains, trying to understand how someone could make a living destroying other people's children. Around midnight, a kid stumbled out. Couldn't have been more than 15, so high he could barely walk. He collapsed on the front lawn, and Vex just stepped over him, got in his Camaro, and drove away. I got out of my truck. The kid was breathing, but barely. I called 911, waited until I heard sirens in the distance, and left before anyone could ask questions I didn't want to answer. But something had shifted in me that night. Some line had been crossed. I couldn't save all of them, but maybe I could save one. And the truth is, I wasn't thinking about the law anymore. I wasn't thinking about consequences. I was thinking about a 17-year-old boy slowly disappearing in front of me while the world kept pretending this was normal. Some people call that obsession. A father calls it the last line of defense. The idea came to me at 3 a.m., the way all terrible ideas do. Fully formed, crystal clear, absolutely insane. And even as it arrived, I knew it was the moment a desperate father stepped into something darker and far more dangerous. What if Kai had to lose everything to find himself again? What if the only way to save him was to destroy the life he was clinging to? I spent 3 days researching, found a facility in Montana called Clearwater Ridge, not a rehab center, but a wilderness therapy program for troubled teens. 6 months in the mountains, no phones, no contact with the outside world. They specialized in cases like Kai's, kids who'd tried everything else and failed. The catch, kids had to volunteer, had to want it. And Kai would never volunteer, unless he had no other choice. I called my brother Rowan. He lived in Seattle, worked as a private investigator, knew people who knew people. We'd never been close. He always thought I was too soft, too willing to see the best in people, even when they showed me their worst. I need your help, I told him, and you're going to think I'm crazy. I already think you're crazy, he said. What do you need? I told him the plan, all of it, the fake death, the staged funeral, the new identity, everything. The silence on the other end lasted longer than I thought he'd hung up. You understand what you're asking, he finally said. You're talking about faking your son's death. That's not just crazy, Thorne. That's illegal. That's the only thing I haven't tried. I've tried love. I've tried patience. I've tried tough love and soft love and every kind of love in between. Nothing works. He's going to die, Rowan. Not maybe, not possibly. He's going to die, and I'm going to have to bury him for real, and I'll spend the rest of my life wondering if there was something else I could have done. Another silence. When? Rowan asked. 2 weeks. Jesus, Thorne. Will you help me? I heard him exhale, long and slow. Yeah, I'll help you, but if this goes wrong, it won't. If it goes wrong, he continued, you're on your own. I can't go to prison for this. I understand. I didn't tell Iris. Couldn't. She would have tried to stop me, and I couldn't let that happen. This was my choice, my burden, my sin to carry. The hardest part was the waiting. 2 weeks of watching Kai destroy himself in slow motion, knowing what was coming, unable to say anything. 2 weeks of memorizing his face, the way his left eyebrow corked when he was lying, the scar on his chin from when he'd fallen off his bike at age 7, the exact shade of brown in his eyes that matched his mother's. I took him to dinner on a Thursday night. His choice, a burger place downtown where we used to go when he was little, back when things were simple and a milkshake could fix any problem. Why are we here? He asked, suspicious. He'd learned to distrust kindness. Can't a father take his son to dinner? You never just take me to dinner. You always want something. He was right. I always wanted something. I wanted him to be okay. I wanted him to be the kid he used to be, before the drugs, before the lies, before the distance that had grown between us like a canyon. I want to tell you something, I said, about your grandfather. Kai's expression shifted slightly. He'd never met my father. The man had died before Kai was born, but he'd heard the stories. He was an alcoholic, I continued. Drank himself to death by 53. And you know what I remember most about him? The silence. He'd sit in his chair every night, bottle in hand, and just disappear. Even when he was in the room, he wasn't really there. And I used to think that was the worst thing, the silence, the absence. I paused, watching Kai's face. But I was wrong. The worst thing wasn't his silence. It was mine. I never told him I loved him, never told him I was scared for him, never told him that watching him kill himself was killing me too. I just stayed quiet because I thought that's what you did. You respected people's choices. You gave them space. Where are you going with this? Kai asked quietly. I'm going somewhere I should have gone a long time ago, I said. I'm telling you that I love you, and I'm terrified, and I don't know how to save you, but I'm going to try anyway, even if you hate me for it. Kai looked down at his untouched burger. I don't hate you, Dad. But you don't trust me either. He didn't answer, didn't need to. We ate in silence, a different kind of silence than my father's. This one was full of all the things we couldn't say, all the words that had gotten stuck somewhere between our hearts and our mouths. That was the last real conversation I had with my son before I killed him. Roan arrived on a Saturday. He brought everything we needed. Fake police reports, a death certificate template, contacts at the hospital who could be convinced to look the other way for the right price. He'd even found a funeral director who specialized in discreet arrangements. This is your last chance to back out. Once we start this, there's no stopping. I'm not backing out. The plan sounded simple when you said it out loud. Kai would overdose again. Not a real overdose, but something that looked like one. Roan had a doctor friend who could provide the right combination of drugs to simulate death without actually causing it. We'd call 911, get Kai to the hospital, and then the switch. A body bag would leave the hospital, but it wouldn't contain my son. Instead, Kai would be sedated, transported to a private facility, and from there to Montana. By the time he woke up, he'd be at Clearwater Ridge, and everyone he knew would believe he was dead. "What about Iris?" Roan asked. That was the part that kept me awake at night. Iris would grieve. She'd blame herself. She'd carry that weight for the rest of her life. Unless... 6 months, I said. After 6 months, if Kai's clean, if he's better, we tell her the truth. And if he's not better? I didn't answer. The opportunity came 3 days later. Kai came home at 2 a.m., high as a satellite. I could see it in his eyes, that glassy, distant look that meant he was somewhere I couldn't reach. He stumbled to his room, and I heard him collapse onto his bed. I waited an hour. Then I called Roan. "It's time." The ambulance arrived at 4:17 a.m. I'd made the call myself, voice shaking, words tumbling out in a panic that wasn't entirely fake. "My son, he's not breathing. I think he overdosed. Please, you have to hurry." The paramedics moved with practiced efficiency. They'd seen this before, too many times. One of them, a woman with gray streaks in her dark hair, looked at me with something like pity as they loaded Kai on the stretcher. "Is he going to be okay?" I asked, because that's what a father would ask. "We're doing everything we can," she said, which wasn't an answer. I rode in the ambulance, holding Kai's hand. His skin was cold, too cold. For a moment, panic seized me. What if Roan's doctor friend had miscalculated? What if this wasn't fake? But then I felt it, the faintest pulse under my fingers, steady and strong. He was alive. At the hospital, everything moved according to plan. The doctor on duty was one of Roan's contacts, a man named Dr. Shen who looked like he hadn't slept in days. He examined Kai, shook his head gravely, and said the words that would change everything. "I'm sorry. We did everything we could." Time of death, 5:23 a.m. People think death happens in a single moment, a flatline, a doctor shaking his head. But sometimes death happens slowly, over months, over lies, over nights when your child walks through the door and you realize the person in front of you is already becoming a stranger. That morning, everyone in the room believed my son had died. The truth was more complicated. The boy they thought we lost was still breathing, but the boy addiction had been taking us for 2 years had already been halfway gone. I collapsed into a chair, and the grief that poured out of me wasn't entirely performance, because even though Kai was alive, something had died, the version of us that existed before this moment, the father and son we used to be. Iris arrived an hour later. Watching her face when Dr. Shen told her was the hardest thing I've ever done. She made a sound I'd never heard before, something between a scream and a sob, something that came from a place deeper than words. She fell to her knees, and I caught her, held her while she shattered in my arms. "No!" she kept saying. "No, no, no, no!" "I'm sorry," I whispered into her hair. "I'm sorry." And I was. Sorry for the lie. Sorry for the pain. Sorry for being the kind of father who thought this was the only way. They let us see the body. It wasn't Kai, of course. Roan had arranged for a substitute, someone whose face was already hidden beneath the white hospital sheet, similar enough that no one would look twice. Iris didn't look too closely. Couldn't. She just stood in the doorway, sobbing, while I approached the gurney. I touched the cold hand, and for a moment, I let myself imagine it was real. Let myself feel the full weight of what it would mean to lose him forever. Then I turned away. Because the truth is this. People think love is gentle. They imagine patience, kindness, understanding. But the most dangerous decisions are the quiet ones, the ones made while everyone else is crying, the ones made while the world believes the story you gave them. That was the moment I understood something terrifying. The lie had already become real. And once a lie becomes real, there's no burying it again. We buried an empty casket on a Thursday afternoon. The sky was gray, threatening rain, but never quite delivering. About 50 people came.
Family, friends, kids from Kai's school looked uncomfortable in their dress clothes and probably didn't know what to say. Addiction has a way of isolating people. By the end, Kai hadn't had many friends left. Iris gave the eulogy. I couldn't. Didn't trust myself to speak without breaking. Kai was bright. He was funny. He was kind. He was all the things a mother hopes her son will be. And then something happened. Something broke inside him, and I don't know what it was, or when it happened, or how we missed it. But we did. We missed it, and now he's gone. Her voice cracked on the last word.
And standing there, watching them lower that casket into the ground, I understood something the rest of them didn't. They thought they were burying my son. They thought this was the end of his story. But the truth was far more complicated and far more cruel. The boy they were mourning had already been disappearing for 2 years. Addiction had been burying him inch by inch, while the rest of us pretended we still had time. That day, the town cried over a lie, and I stood there, holding the truth in my chest like a loaded weapon. Because sometimes saving someone doesn't look like mercy. Sometimes it looks like betrayal. Sometimes it looks like standing beside a grave while everyone you love believes the worst thing imaginable has already happened. I stood there watching dirt fall onto the casket and thought about all the ways love can fail. How you can give everything you have and still lose. How silence can be both a gift and a curse. How sometimes the only way to save someone is to let them believe they're lost. After the funeral, people came to the house. They brought casseroles and condolences, neither of which helped. They said things like, "He's in a better place," and "At least he's not suffering anymore." And I wanted to scream that he wasn't dead, that this was all a lie, that my son was alive and on his way to Montana, and maybe, just maybe, this insane plan would work. But I just nodded and said thank you and accepted their hugs like a man drowning in his own deception. Rowan found me in the garage around midnight after everyone had left. "He's there," he said quietly. "Arrived this afternoon. They've got him in medical observation for the next 72 hours, making sure the drugs are out of his system. And then the real work begins." I nodded, unable to speak. "You did the right thing." Did I? He didn't answer because neither of us knew. The first month was hell. Every morning I stood in the kitchen staring at Kai's coffee mug still sitting beside the sink, like he might walk in and reach for it. I couldn't call, couldn't check in, couldn't know if Kai was okay, or if he hated me, or if he'd figured out what I'd done. The rules at Clearwater Ridge were absolute. No contact with the outside world for the first 90 days. After that, letters only. No phones, no visits, no exceptions. Iris fell apart slowly, like a building collapsing in slow motion. She stopped going to work, stopped eating, spent hours in Kai's room, sitting on his bed, holding his clothes like they could bring him back. I wanted to tell her the truth so badly it physically hurt, but I couldn't. Not yet. Not until I knew if this was going to work. I threw myself into work. I ran a small construction company, building decks and renovating kitchens. The kind of physical labor that let me turn my brain off for a few hours. But even exhaustion couldn't stop the thoughts. What if Kai never forgave me? What if this broke him instead of fixing him? What if I made the biggest mistake of my life? At night, I'd lie awake and replay every moment of his childhood, looking for the point where things went wrong. Was it the divorce? Was it something I said or didn't say? Was it genetic, inherited from my father like eye color or height? Or was it just bad luck? Wrong place, wrong time, wrong friend who offered the wrong pill at the wrong moment? I'd never know. And maybe that was the hardest part. Not knowing. Living in the space between cause and effect, between action and consequence. Iris called me one night, 3 weeks after the funeral. "I can't do this," she said. Her voice was hollow, scraped clean of everything except pain. I can't live in a world where he doesn't exist. Iris, she keep thinking I see him at the grocery store, walking down the street. I saw a kid yesterday wearing Kai's jacket, that blue one with the hood, and I followed him for 3 blocks before I realized it wasn't him. It couldn't be him, because he's dead. The word hung between us like a blade. I know, I said, because what else could I say? Do you? Her voice sharpened. Do you know? Because you seem fine. You're working, you're functioning, you're... I'm not fine, I interrupted. I'm not even close to fine. Then why aren't you falling apart like I am? Because I know he's alive, I thought. Because I know there's still hope. But I said, everyone grieves differently. She hung up without saying goodbye. The letter arrived on day 93. I recognized the handwriting immediately. Kai's messy scrawl, letters leaning left like they were escaping the page. My hands shook as I opened it. Dad, I know what you did. It took me a while to figure it out. The first week I was too sick to think straight. Withdrawal is... I can't even describe it. Imagine every cell in your body screaming at once. Imagine wanting something so badly you'd kill for it, die for it, destroy everything you ever loved for just one more hit. That's what the first week was like. By week 2, my head started clearing, and I started asking questions. How did I get here? Why can't I call Mom? Why do people keep saying I'm getting a fresh start? Week 3, one of the counselors slipped, said something about my unique situation, about how my family had made extraordinary arrangements. That's when I knew. You faked my death. You let Mom think I was dead. You let everyone think I was dead. You stood at my funeral and watched them bury an empty casket, and you didn't say a word. I should hate you for that. Part of me does, but another part, the part that's been sober for 93 days, the part that can finally think clearly for the first time in 2 years, that part understands. I was dying, Dad. Maybe not that night, but soon. Another week, another month, another overdose that went just a little bit wrong. I was dying, and I couldn't stop myself, didn't want to stop myself. You know what the worst part of addiction is? It's not the drugs. It's not even the withdrawal. It's the lying. To yourself, mostly. Telling yourself you're in control when you're not. Telling yourself you can quit any time when you can't. Telling yourself you're not hurting anyone when you're destroying everyone who loves you. I lied to you so many times, and you knew. I could see it in your eyes. You knew, and you said nothing. And I hated you for that silence. Thought it meant you didn't care. But now I get it. You were silent because you didn't know what to say. Because there are no words for watching your kid kill himself slowly. Because love doesn't always sound like love. Sometimes it sounds like nothing at all. I'm not fixed yet. The counselors here say recovery isn't a destination, it's a journey. They say a lot of corny shit like that. But I'm better. I'm learning things about myself I didn't know, like why I started using in the first place. Did you know I felt invisible? Even before the drugs, I felt like I was this ghost moving through my own life and nobody could really see me. The drugs made me feel real, made me feel something, even if that something was terrible. I'm learning to feel real without them. It's hard. Some days I want to use so badly I can taste it, but I don't. Because I'm starting to remember who I was before all this, and I'm starting to imagine who I could be after. I don't know if I'll ever forgive you for what you did, but I understand it, and maybe understanding is enough for now. Tell Mom I'm sorry. Tell her I love her. Tell her... Actually, don't tell her anything yet. I need to do this on my own first. Need to be strong enough to face her without falling apart. I'll write again next month. Kai. I read the letter 17 times. Then I folded it carefully, put it in my pocket, and drove to Iris's house. Iris answered the door in sweatpants and one of Kai's old t-shirts. She looked like she'd aged 10 years in 3 months. Her hair was unwashed, pulled back in a messy ponytail, dark circles under her eyes. She'd lost weight, too much weight. "Thorne?" She blinked at me like she wasn't sure I was real. "What are you doing here?" "I need to tell you something. If this is about the life insurance, I already told you I don't want. Kai's alive." The words hung in the air between us like smoke. Iris stared, blinked, stirred some more. "What?" "Kai's alive," I repeated. "He's not dead. He never was. I faked it. I faked his death and sent him to a facility in Montana, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, but I didn't know what else to do." She slapped me. The crack snapped my head sideways, and I tasted copper at the back of my mouth. The sound cracked through a quiet neighborhood like a gunshot. My cheek burned. I didn't move. "You..." She couldn't finish. Her face had gone white, then red, cycling through emotions too fast to name. "You let me think my son was dead? You let me grieve? You let me..." She hit me again and again, fists against my chest, my shoulders, my face. I let her. Deserved worse. Finally, she collapsed against me, sobbing so hard her whole body shook. "He's alive?" she whispered into my shirt. "He's really alive?" "He's alive, and he's sober. 93 days. She pulled back, looked at me with eyes full of hope and rage and confusion. "Show me." I pulled out the letter, watched her read it, watched her face transform as the words sank in, watched her cry. Different tears this time. Not grief, but something more complicated. "I should hate you," she said when she finished. "I understand. I should call the police, have you arrested. You faked a death certificate. You committed fraud. I know. But he's alive." She looked at the letter again, like she needed to confirm it was real. "My baby's alive." "He is." She sat down on the couch, still holding the letter. I sat beside her, keeping distance between us. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked quietly. "Why didn't you let me help?" "Because you would have tried to stop me, and I couldn't let that happen. So you made the decision alone, like you always do, like you did with the divorce, with the custody arrangement, with everything. You just decide what's best, and everyone else has to live with it." She wasn't wrong. "I'm sorry," I said. "I'm sorry for all of it. For the lie, for the pain, for making you grieve when you didn't have to. But I'm not sorry for saving him. I'd do it again. I'd do worse if it meant getting him back." Iris was quiet for a long time. "When can I see him?" she finally asked. "Not yet. He needs to finish the program. 6 months total. He's got 3 more to go." She closed her eyes. "I don't know if I can wait 3 months." "You can. We both can, because at the end of it, we get him back. Not the kid who was using, not the kid who was dying. We get Kai back. The real Kai." "What if he hates us?" "He might. Probably will, at least for a while. But he'll be alive to hate us. And that's enough." The next 3 months crawled by like wounded animals, each week peeling back another layer of who Kai was becoming. Iris and I developed a routine. Every Sunday, we'd meet for coffee and read Kai's letters together. He wrote every week now. Long, rambling letters about his therapy sessions, the other kids in the program, the mountains that surrounded the facility like ancient guardians. Week 14. We did this exercise today where we had to write letters to our addiction. Sounds stupid, right? But it was actually intense. I wrote, "Dear Heroine, you promised me everything and gave me nothing. You said you'd make me feel alive, but all you did was make me numb. You said you'd be there when nobody else was, but you were the reason nobody else could be there. You're a liar. You're a thief. You stole 2 years of my life, and I want them back." The counselor said that was good. Said I was externalizing my relationship with the substance. Whatever that means. I'm starting to remember things I'd forgotten, like how much I used to love drawing. There's an art therapy class here, and I've been sketching the mountains. They're beautiful in a way that makes you feel small, like your problems don't matter as much as you think they do. Week 18. Met a kid named River today. He's 16, been here for 8 months. His story's worse than mine. Started using at 13, homeless by 14, overdosed 6 times before his aunt finally got him here. But he's clean now. Says he's going to college next year. Wants to be a social worker, help other kids like us. It's weird being around people who understand, who don't judge, who have been where I've been and made it out the other side. Makes me think maybe I can too. Week 22. I'm scared, Dad. 3 weeks left, and I'm terrified. What if I get out and everything falls apart again? What if I see Vex or one of my old friends and I can't say no? What if I'm not strong enough? The counselors say that's normal, say fear means you're taking this seriously. But it doesn't feel normal. It feels like standing on the edge of a cliff, knowing you have to jump, but not knowing if you'll fly or fall. I guess I'll find out soon. That letter kept me awake for 3 nights straight. Because he was right to be scared. The statistics were brutal. Most addicts relapsed within the first year. Most tried rehab multiple times before it stuck. Most never made it at all. But Kai wasn't a statistic. He was my son. I had to believe that would be enough. We picked him up on a Saturday in late September. The drive to Montana took 14 hours. Iris and I barely spoke, both of us wrapped in our anxiety. What if he changed too much? What if he hadn't changed enough? What if he took one look at us and decided he wanted nothing to do with the people who'd lied to him? Clearwater Ridge sat in a valley surrounded by mountains that looked like they'd been carved by gods. The facility itself was modest, log cabins, a main building, a lake that reflected the sky like polished silver. Kai was waiting on the front porch. 6 months had transformed him. He'd gained weight, muscle filling out his frame. His skin had color again. His eyes were clear, really clear. Not the fake clear that came Cobain high or the empty clear that came from being numb. These were eyes that saw things, felt things, understood things. Iris ran to him, wrapped her arms around him, and didn't let go for a full minute. I hung back, giving them space, watching my son hold his mother while she cried into his shoulder. Then Kai looked at me over her head. "Hey, Dad." "Hey, kid." We stood there, 10 feet apart, an ocean of unspoken words between us. "I'm sorry," I said, "for everything. For the lie, for the pain, for—" "Stop." Kai gently extracted himself from Iris's embrace and walked toward me. "I've had 6 months to think about what you did. 6 months to be angry, to process, to understand. And here's what I figured out. You saved my life. You did something insane and illegal and probably unforgivable, and you saved my life. So yeah, I'm still mad. Probably will be for a while. But I'm also grateful. And I'm here. And that's because of you." He held out his hand. I looked at it, this hand that used to be so small I could hold in my palm, this hand that had grown and changed and done terrible things and was now offering me forgiveness I didn't deserve. I took it, pulled him into a hug, felt him hug back. "I'm proud of you," I whispered. "I'm proud of me too," he said, and I heard the smile in his voice. Coming home was harder than any of us expected, because to most people in town, Kai was still the boy they'd buried. Kai's friends still thought he was dead. His school had held a memorial. His room had been turned into a shrine. We'd created a ghost, and now we had to figure out how to bring him back to life. We started with the truth. Called a family meeting with Iris's parents, my brother, the few close friends who needed to know, sat them down and explained everything. Watched their faces cycle through shock, anger, confusion, and finally, reluctant understanding. "You're insane," Iris's mother said. "Both of you, completely insane." "I know," I said, "but he's here. He's alive. He's—" She looked at Kai, really looked at him. "You're okay?" "I'm okay. I'm better than okay. I'm sober." The word hung in the air like a promise. We decided to tell people gradually. Started with Kai's closest friends, the ones who'd stuck around even when things got bad. Their reactions ranged from joy to anger to confusion, but mostly joy. Mostly relief that their friend was back. School was trickier. We met with the principal, explained the situation, leaving out the illegal parts, and worked out a plan for Kai to return. He'd missed 6 months, but the facility had provided tutoring. He could graduate on time if he worked hard. I'll work hard, Kai promised. I've got a lot to make up for. The first few weeks were rocky. Kai had nightmares, panic attacks, moments where the craving hit him so hard he had to lock himself in his room and write it out. But he didn't use. Went to NA meetings 3 times a week, saw a therapist twice a week, and took it 1 day at a time, 1 hour at a time when necessary. Iris and I started talking again. Really talking, not just coordinating schedules and discussing Kai's progress. We'd have coffee on Sunday mornings, and she'd tell me about her week, and I'd tell me about mine, and slowly, carefully, we rebuilt something that looked almost like friendship. "I'm still angry at you," she said one morning, "for the record." "I know. But I also understand why you did it. And I think maybe I would have done the same thing if I'd been brave enough. It wasn't brave. It was desperate. Maybe brave and desperate are the same thing sometimes." People love redemption stories. They like the version where someone gets clean and everything magically becomes better. But addiction doesn't work like that. Recovery is quieter, harder. Sometimes the scariest moment isn't when your child is lost. It's when you're terrified they might get lost again. It happened 4 months after Kai came home, the moment I'd been quietly afraid of since the day we brought him back. I got the call at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. Iris, voice shaking. "He's gone. He left 2 hours ago, and he's not answering his phone, and I think he's using again." My blood turned to ice. I drove through the city like a man possessed, checking every place I could think of. The gas station on Mercer Street, the warehouse on the east side, the park where kids went to deal. Found him at the warehouse. He was slumped against a wall, knees pulled to his chest, phone in his hand. Not using, just sitting there, staring at nothing. I sat down beside him. Didn't say anything, just sat. "I almost did it," he said after a long silence. "Vex texted me, said he heard I was back, said he had something special for me. Welcome home present." "But you didn't." "But I almost did. I was standing outside his place for 20 minutes, had my hand on the door, and all I could think of was how good it would feel, how easy it would be to just stop fighting." "What stopped you?" Kai looked at me. His eyes were wet. "You did. I thought about what you did for me. How you risked everything, your reputation, your freedom, your relationship with Mom, all of it, just to give me a chance. And I thought, I can't waste that. I can't let that be for nothing." He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. "So I called my sponsor instead, and he talked me down. And then I came here because I needed to be somewhere that reminded me of how bad it got. Needed to remember why I'm fighting." I put my arm around his shoulders. "Recovery isn't linear," I said. "You're going to have bad days, days where you want to use so badly you can taste it. But you didn't use tonight. You made the right choice. That's what matters. What if I don't make the right choice next time? Then we'll deal with it, together. But I believe you will, because you're stronger than you think." We sat there for another hour, father and son, surrounded by the ghosts of his past, and then we went home. And I realized something that night. You don't defeat darkness once. You defeat it again and again, sometimes every single day. Addiction doesn't disappear. It waits. And love has to be stubborn enough to wait longer. Kai graduated in June. He walked across that stage in his cap and gown, and when they called his name, the applause was deafening, because everyone knew his story now. Everyone knew he'd died and come back. Everyone knew he'd fought his way through hell and made it out the other side. Iris cried. I cried. Even Rowan, who'd flown in from Seattle, looked suspiciously misty-eyed. After the ceremony, we took pictures. Kai with his diploma, Kai with his friends, Kai with me and Iris, the three of us together for the first time in years, smiling like we meant it. I'm proud of you, I told him for the 100th time. I know, Dad. You've mentioned it once or twice. I'm going to keep mentioning it. Get used to it. He laughed. God, it was good to hear him laugh. That night, we had a party at the house. Nothing big, just family and close friends. Burgers on the grill, music playing softly in the background. Kai spent most of the evening talking to River, who'd driven down from college for the occasion. They sat on the back porch, two kids who'd been to hell and back, planning their futures like they had all the time in the world. Maybe they did. Around midnight, after everyone had left, Kai found me in the garage. I was cleaning up, throwing away paper plates and empty soda cans. Hey, Dad? Yeah? Thank you for everything, for not giving up on me, for doing the crazy thing when the normal things didn't work, for loving me enough to let me hate you. I set down the trash bag and looked at my son, this young man who'd been through more than most people experience in a lifetime, who'd died and been reborn, who'd fought his way back from the edge and won. I'd do it again, I said. Every time, no matter what. I know. That's what makes you a good dad. He hugged me then, and I held on tight, memorizing the moment. Because these were the moments that mattered, not the big dramatic gestures or the grand sacrifices. Just this, a father and son standing in a garage at midnight, grateful to be alive. Kai's been sober for 18 months now. He's in college, studying psychology, wants to work with kids like him, kids who've lost their way and need someone to help them find it again. He goes to meetings regularly, sees his therapist, takes it one day at a time. He still has bad days where the craving hits him like a freight train. But he calls me when that happens, or he calls his sponsor, or he calls River, and he doesn't use. Iris and I aren't back together. Probably never will be, but we're friends again, real friends, and that's enough. We have dinner together once a week, the three of us, and we talk about everything and nothing. We laugh, we remember, we plan. Sometimes I think about that night in the hospital when I made the decision to fake my son's death. I think about all the ways it could have gone wrong, all the ways I could have lost him forever. But I didn't lose him. I found him. Or maybe he found himself. People ask me sometimes if I regret it. The lie, the deception, the pain I caused. And I tell them the truth. I regret the pain. I regret that it had to happen that way. But I don't regret saving my son's life. Because here's what I learned. Love isn't always soft. Sometimes it's hard. Other times it's making impossible choices and living with the consequences. Sometimes love is letting your child think you've given up so they can learn to save themselves. Kai called me last week, said he wanted to write a book about his experience, asked if I'd help him. What would you call it? I asked. The silence that speaks, he said, because sometimes the things we don't say are louder than the things we do. I thought about that, about all the years of silence between us, about how that silence had been both a wound and a bridge, and how we'd finally learned to speak the same language. I'll help you, I said, on one condition. What's that? You tell the truth. All of it. Even the parts that make me look bad. He laughed. Dad, most of it makes you look bad. Good. Then people will know it's real. We're starting next month, father and son, writing our story together, turning our pain into something that might help someone else, turning our silence into words that speak. And maybe that's the point. Maybe that's what we're all trying to do. Take the broken pieces of our lives and build something beautiful from the wreckage. Fill the silence with meaning. Take the darkness and find the light. Kai is alive. He's sober. He's here. And that's enough. That's everything. Before this ends, there's one thing I want you to understand about the impossible choices parents sometimes have to make. It's about the fine line between helping and enabling, between love and control, between holding on and letting go. If you or someone you love is struggling with addiction, please know you're not alone. There are resources available. There are people who understand. There are ways forward, even when it feels like there aren't. Recovery is possible. Hope is real. And sometimes the silence speaks louder than any words ever could. Sometimes I still think about that empty casket, about the lie that saved my son, and about the silence that finally taught us how to speak again. Maybe someone listening to the story needed to hear that today. Stories like this only matter if someone hears them. If this story meant something to you, let me know in the comments. They exist because people choose to listen. And I'm curious, what would you have done if you were in Thorne's place? And if you believe families can fight their way back from the edge, subscribe and stay with me because there are more stories waiting to be told. And if you're not ready to leave just yet, there's another story waiting for you on the screen right now. One I think you'll really enjoy.